Dire wave
3.
The arts reflect the soul, the spirit of a people. Architecture reflects the soul, the spirit of a people. And so therefore you can see the degeneracy, you can see the degradation and the loss of aesthetics, the loss of the idea of there being harmony, order, symmetry in aesthetics is connected with the loss of a coherent worldview and philosophy. Dire wave
3.
Dire wave.
3.
What's up, boys and girls? Him, Zers, G, Zerge, all of those. Yo, what's happening? What's happening? That's my favorite TV show of all time. Had them on Laserdisc. All the what's happenings. What's happening? People were worried. Where have you been? Where have you been? I was in the multiverse. I was in another dimension, saving it from a giant cornbread Keanu Reeves that had taken over. And in that alternate universe, my legs were also cornbread because it's the multiverse where anything can happen. And so every time I get up to walk, I forget my legs are cornbread, so I just fall over because, right? Cornbread legs are not able to withstand my tremendous upper body girth. This is all girth, as they say, in the realm of science and technology. And today we are going to be talking about my girth. No, we're going to be talking about movies. We all love movies, don't we? This is Jay's Analysis, Chad Nerds, movie loving audience. And we always like to talk about the current streams of propaganda that are going on in the films already. What's up? We're back to normal after our time of punishment and humiliation. We wept, we bawled for 7 days straight as the proper act of humiliation, public humiliation rituals, which we affirm and enjoy. Punished Jay Dyer, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the soft hearts that were hurt many years ago by the horrible things that I said on the horrible live streams. And I partly made up for my errors by going into the other dimensions and punishing people who were evil right-wingers, people conservatives. I punished them by turning them into giving them cornbread legs, and then they just immediately fall over. So you can thank me. I saved the universe. And then Doctor Strange, a.k.a. Benadryl Cumberbatch, he made everybody forget that it was me that did that. So you all owe me basically everything. But I'm humble enough not to brag about it. And we had to make you all forget. Because I don't remember why. I've forgotten. So Doctor Strange made me forget why we had to make everybody forget. Why are they pushing the multiverse? And by the way, there's this other movie coming out, this weird, with a Chinese woman who runs a laundry mat or something. And she can tap into the power, her goddess powers in the multiverse. Why are they pushing the multiverse? Well, I think I have the answer. So we're going to analyze, as you can see, 2 movies. There will be some spoilers. So if you haven't seen them, don't worry about it. Let me spoil it for you. And then you can go decide if you want to see them anyway. My recounting of the events is actually better than the films themselves. And I think we're going to start with, not Spider-Man. We'll start with Le Matrix. And this stars Kinko Reeves as a computer man, hacker man. I want to talk too about the 90s and kind of flashback a little. We're going to talk a little bit about the Matrix trilogy, what I wrote in Esoteric Hollywood 2, of course. A little bit, but I've done the Matrix multiple times, so I'm not going to redo the Matrix. That movie has been analyzed into the dirt. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I didn't really think the new Matrix movie was very good. And I didn't have any expectations. What's Mary Jane's line? I have no expectations, and therefore I'm never let down. Something like that. Mary Jane's expectations line is actually my approach to movies. And that way I'm never let down because I have no expectations, and then I can just watch the movie, and if there was actually one element of the movie, oh, that was a nice picture hanging in the background, then I'm pleasantly surprised because the movie wasn't complete garbage. But hey, I guess the metaverse and the multiverse actually is an easy way for Hollywood to go meta and then rehash stuff and reuse stuff and then capitalize on everything they already did. I was just thinking, next up they'll have the whole movie where they just change one scene and it'll just be the same old movie. It'll be like, that's the Metaverse Dimension 23,455, where they just changed that one scene. Whoa, my mind is blown. Here, let me consume. Oh, I'm gonna consume. Oh, give me more Marvels. Give me more Marvels. Okay, Star Wars boy. We'll give you infinite Marvels in the infinite Marvelverse. And I was thinking, what's the word I want to use? And I was thinking Marvel plus garbage. Marvage. I can't wait for the next Marvage that I could consume. I want you to intravenously put Marvage into my veins so I can consume it. Right? Anyway, we'll get to the Marvage later. Although, actually, it wasn't a bad movie. I mean, it's not bad. But we will dissect the goofy esoteric elements. Bring in a little bit of that Doctor Strange, too, because we got, of course, the stinger at the end was the trailer for the new Doctor Strange. And guess what it is? Oh, Doctor Strange in the multiverse. And how did we get to the multiverse? Well, the Spider-Man plot is about that. But let's talk about the Matrix, which also is about the multiverse and the metaverse and all of those things together because they're all related. So if you didn't know, simulation theory, which is in the Matrix, relates to multiverse theory and relates to the coming metaverse, and it all connects. And I'm always interested when I see 3 or 4 movies out at the same time that have similar themes or the same themes.
And we've seen many instances of this. How planned that is, I don't know. But we do know that there is a high degree of coordination, propaganda, planning that goes into the movies. And first thing I was thinking about as I was reviewing The Matrix, which, you know, we analyzed it many years ago. It's in the book. So I didn't go back and watch all The Matrix. I've seen The Matrix enough times I've written essays on it. I don't need to see The Matrix again. But it did bring back some interesting memories to when The Matrix came out. I remember going to see it in the theater in 1998. And, oh, yeah, whoa, dude, cool internet, bro. Can you imagine, like, when we have the internet and, like, the dial-up's 56 and then, like, we could, like, look at, you know, never mind, I won't make that joke. But I remember that time period, and the internet was not ubiquitous. It was just this weird nerd thing. And then I started thinking about how, like, nerd stuff is literally taking over the whole world. Not Chad nerds. Sorry, guys. I wish it was I wish it was Chad nerd stuff taking over the world, but it's not. It's like the normal nerd stuff, which is bad news, right? They're like the villains. The real villains in the villains in our universe are actually these nerds, right? And then I started realizing as I watched a bunch of 90s MTV TV show clips for fun and commercials, I was really blown away at what all was being promoted in the 90s and in the late 90s. Now, as you know, yes, we study propaganda. We know about propaganda here. But I have never looked back at the late 90s TV shows and commercials that kind of were innocuous, or at least I thought so at the time. I didn't think anything about it, and to really see the bizarre stuff going on. So I went and watched several episodes of, remember MTV's Liquid Television? Remember that? Aeon Flux? Remember that? And yes, I've done a little analysis of the Charlize Theron Aeon Flux movie, which is, it's weird. I don't know if I would call it good, but it does have some programming, genetic, mind control stuff throughout. I mean, she's some kind of weird assassin, and they're always like licking the nipples. Remember that in the cartoon? It was like the cartoon would show her as this super skinny, like giant legs, tiny butt assassin. Remember that? And then she would go kill people, and then she would lick her nemesis's nipples. And then I was watching Liquid Television and remembering all of the weird avant-garde stuff that was on Liquid Television, and I'm pretty sure Beavis and Butthead or The Simpsons started on Liquid Television. Pretty sure Beavis and Butthead. I can't remember if The Simpsons did or not, but it was very avant-garde, very edgy. A lot of satire, a lot of actually interesting creative things. I'm not trying to say it was all bad, but all throughout that, and then I watched a bunch of episodes of MTV's AMP. Remember AMP? In 1997, my senior, I bought the AMP CD because, oh, dude, it's like the coolest techno songs. Oh, yeah, rad. Rave music. So then I realized rave scene was techno-pagan scene, and this should have been obvious to me. Like, rave music is tied to hacking techno music. That's the anarcho techno-pagan movement, techno-paganism, which was not just kind of an underground thing. And then you realize that in all the hacker movies, that's the philosophy of the hackers. The hackers are anarcho-pagan, libertarian-ish, and then proto-SJWs, actually. And then I realized, oh, so they're actually the archetype of like the future model transhumanist person. And then all just started clicking to me how engineered the techno-pagan, hacker, rave, electronic music, electronic dance scene, global DJs, global trance, technocracy, transhumanism. And I don't know, it was trippy, dude. It was just like, it all kind of coalesced. And then I thought about why the Matrix was such a huge cultural thing, with its obvious techno-pagan, Gnostic, libertarian-ish, social justice type-ish, anti-establishment, yet from the establishment, obviously, ethos. Throw in some Eastern mysticism, ooh, right? And then you realize that each of these decades is kind of really just phases in the ongoing engineered revolution. So go back, Brave New World, right? That's the final revolution. That's the end stage dystopia. 60s counterculture revolution. We just did, by the way, if you didn't get a chance to see it yet, I finally posted it on all the subscribers outlets. The full lecture on MKUltra. And going back into some of those older books that I hadn't read in many years, and doing that full 2-hour lecture, I realized, man, they were really, the whole 60s counterculture revolution was like step one of enter in the hacking, computer geek, techno, pagan, Silicon Valley-ish phase of the 90s. And it's so obvious in all these movies that, man, that's really what's going on. Like they really kind of had this pretty much planned out as the revolution progresses. And when you watch The Matrix now, you're like, these are revolutionaries. They're playing the part of these counterculture. I don't know what they would like. They're like, it's a mix of things. So it's hard to, it's like they're Crowleyan, bondage, techno, goth, industrial, 9 Inch Nails, priests, because Neo wears a cassock, right? It's like, so it's a Crowleyan, techno, neo, pagan, Gnostic, black mass, Kinko Reef Church. I don't know what to call it, but and then Kino. Now I called him that fake name so many times I don't even remember his real name. What's his real name? Keanu, which, by the way, if you didn't know, is Hawaiian. You thought it was Boston, it's Hawaiian. I forgot what I was talking about. Techno-pagans. Oh. Anyway, so long story short, the reason that I'm saying all this is that where it's moving is to the multiverse, metaverse, sim world. They mesh together because it's actually a statement on the fact that what is reality. Ultimately, this is going to be about questioning reality itself. Because all of these kind of have the underlying theme, not just of solipsism, but like reality is a product of you. And as we're going to see when we get to the Spider-Man movie, there's no difference between solipsism, which is Carl Jung basically had a solipsis view, that your subconscious projects your reality. And then I guess if you like learn the sorcery jibber jabber good enough, you can control the reality. Ooh. Or you can cause the simulation that you're projecting to alter. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's childishness, but they are really pushing this multiverse theme, and it was actually comic books, by the way, that had the multiverse theme a long time ago, right? The pop culture injection of multiverse. Yeah, there's probably Star Trek episodes. There's probably Twilight Zone episodes that have multiverse. But it was 20 years ago that the guy at Oxford or whoever wrote the paper, and then now you've got the people from MIT, like your boy Riz Von Verk, which no, it's not a rapper. That's actually some Eastern European dude who went to MIT and is writing the books popularizing it. Thank you for those super chats, by the way. You can continue to support Jay's analysis with those fat super chats. It's good to be back on our main platform here. Of course, we love Rockfin. If you really want to support, go over to Rockfin. We're probably going to be end up on Rockfin at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Welcome all you Chad nerds. Shout out. So we're going through the history of the 90s era of the pushing of, dude, it's so rad that we're going to be able to hack the Pentagon and fry the motherboards and like get into the mainframes, you know what I mean? Whatever all the nonsense hacker lingo of the 90s was. Which, by the way, wait till we do the Alias analysis. That you're really going to be blown away with what all they put in Alias. And I'm just sitting here watching this thinking, like, who in 2000, nobody in 2002 and 3 knew about the Echelon program. Maybe Alex Jones. Nobody knew about the NSA even. And all this elaborate espionage stuff is all in like the first 2 seasons of Alias. And I'm thinking, why is that in there? It's like every episode is full of just this crazy stuff. And I mean, aside from the propaganda, I know, yes, it goes in one ear and out the other in terms of the normie public, but there's some really wild stuff in Alias. And I'm just kind of like, my mind is blown that they're putting this really kind of like Snowden level stuff that's not out yet, and it's in Alias. That's blowing my mind, dude. And yes, of course, we know the CIA literally consulted on Alias. I know that. I read the book 10 years ago talking about it, and I've mentioned it in my books. So I'm aware of how it came about, but what I'm amazed at is the sophistication in the midst of this fairly goofy TV show. You go back and watch it now, it's pretty goofy, but anyway, we'll be doing that in a little bit. But let's get back to The Matrix. So The Matrix is really trying to, in the late 90s, prepare and capitalize on the emerging cyberpunk theme. Tie it to punk stuff, which I guess that's what cyberpunk was. Connect it to revolution, corporate fake revolution in the pop culture. Steer that into the coming internet, which again is not prevalent. Nobody really, I mean, nerds have the internet and it's freaking 24K, right? It's mom, get off the phone. I'm trying to look up stuff on LimeWire. Please get off. Don't hang up. I'm trying to download Limp Bizkit from freaking Napster. So get off the phone. Right? That's what it was like. And no, I would never download Limp Bizkit. That was a joke. That was what popped in my head because my brother was downloading stupid Limp Bizkit songs. And I was up in there trying to delete them. But that's what it was like in 1998 in the world of the internet. And then you're watching these movies, and we've covered all those. We did a whole episode, by the way, which was a lot of fun. If you didn't see where we covered Johnny Mnemonic, Ghost in the Machine, Lawnmower Man, 13th Floor, and a couple other 90s hacker movies. Now, combine that with, we didn't do The Matrix because we did The Matrix too much. I'll combine that with The Matrix, which was like this just phenomenon, right? I mean, this was huge. It was a cultural like artifact. Like, whoa, you know, this is a... And of course, as you know, the Matrix trilogy each installment gets worse. I mean, they're really dumb. It's like fun, dumb, and dumber. That's the 3 Matrix trilogies there. And they just pile on more confusion and Gnosticism. And unfortunately, I mean, Matrix Resurrection, it is like the retardo stepchild of this family. So there's grandfather Kinko. There's the son, Slow Boy, that he's had. There's the second son, Super Slow Boy, he's had. And then there's like the short person, Super Slow Person, that is the new movie. But it's very bizarre. I will say that. It is the instantiation of the later stages of this revolution. That's what I'm trying to say here. And it's, having lived through those periods and looking back, now it's so obvious, right? So I'm watching those 90s TV shows, like I'm talking about, the 90s MTV shows that were really pushing rave culture, techno, internet life that diffutes. And you go watch a lot of these videos, the artwork in a lot of the videos, which I'm not knocking the art itself. Obviously, I like electronic music. I like, you know, crazy, weird artsy things, but a lot of it was about these future dystopian themes, these future virtual realities, machines taking over. That's in constant music videos from that period. The image of what the girl of the future is, and then you start noticing so I was watching like 90s MTV ads that were stuck within this episode of AMP, which was, if you don't know, this old TV show that was really MTV. When they played music, they would actually play these avant-garde shows that would showcase people that had, good art skills, music, etc. So actually interesting things. And then but some of it you could tell was obviously propaganda and programming, and they would promote. The first thing I noticed was that there was all of this feminist programming in the 90s, which I didn't remember that. Of course, I wasn't aware of programming and propaganda in the 90s anyway, but so all of these ads were like about women's basketball, WNBA. I remember WNBA. Does that even exist anymore? I don't know, but there's WNBA at Rock the Vote, and Rock the Vote was that the action of, it was all tiered as revolution. Your way to be revolutionary is to go vote for Bill Clinton. I'm not joking. Not joking. Like, literally, the way to be a revolutionary is to vote. Rock the Vote, which was a Democratic ad campaign to get people who watched MTV to go vote for Bill Clinton. And the other thing that's interesting, too, is that you could tell MTV gave you these different archetypes in that time period. So there was still the grunge guy. Goth was not really, it was losing popularity, goth and industrial, but you could still kind of see that. The Matrix aesthetic is kind of goth, right? I mean, Neo's wearing a freaking Cossack, dude. Why are you... A Cossack? A leather, like a black leather Cossack? Like, what? I mean, they look like, it looks like at times they could be in a Nine Inch Nails video, right? And that was kind of the apex of industrial before it started dying away. And industrial music, the theme of industrial is electronic metal, basically. So MTV was giving you these archetypes. You could still kind of be grunge dude in 97, 98, but it was kind of getting old because that was early 90s. You could be techno rave person. That was hype. That was still hype. Even into the early 2000s, like the techno rave, purple hair, glow stick look was still there because it comes up in Alias. Like literally every alias that Sydney is a rave chick. So rave must have been just like globally everywhere. And that was tied in with the techno pagan aesthetic. There was the metalhead, because MTV had the metal show, Headbangers Ball, and then whatever succeeded that. And it was just so obvious that these are created images, and the pop culture is kind of giving you these created archetypes for you to try to, I would like to be the techno pagan. I would like to be metal man. I would like to be industrial weirdo BDSM leather man. And it's so obvious that it was like engineered. It's just like, dude, this whole thing. Oh, and then gangster rap. That was the whole rap. There was like fun rap originally, right? With Will Smith. I've been working on my Will Smith laugh. I haven't got it right, but I'm almost there. That was fun rap in the Jazzy Jeff late 80s, early 90s. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And then it turned into gangster rap, which was an engineered archetype. And then fun rap died away, dude. Like, it was gone. No more fun rap. Like Skilo. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. That was still fun rap. But you could just tell how engineered all this stuff is. It's like so obvious. But there was some pretty wild stuff in the avant-garde things, such as Skittles elements and changed person elements were there all the way back then, which I didn't expect. So let's get to the Matrix, because when this came out, as I said, this was a big cultural phenomenon. People were really wowed at it. Had been a while since people were wowed by special effects, right? With Kid and Play, that was fun rap. I went to see House Party, by the way, when I was a kid in the theater. It had been a while since people had seen like whoa cool effects, and The Matrix had that. And it was the first time that I think a huge pop culture movie really brought the techno and the simulation Gnostic theme to the front. I mean, yeah, there have been plenty of like Tron. Yeah, Tron talked about that. But that was, way early. And yeah, I argued in my blog that was kind of a pre-Matrix type of movie. And yeah, Total Recall. And when you watch The Matrix now, you start to realize how many elements they had borrowed from previous science fiction, PKD, sure, all that. Yeah, we know that. William Gibson, Neuromancer, I know all that. But it's just hard to I can't explain how much of a cultural impact the Matrix had. And if you know about our buddies over at Psyop Cinema, they have the thesis that the red pill in Total Recall is actually not a good thing. Remember, because it's actually the bad guys that offer the red pill. And that's trying to get Arnold out of... Get the people to air! Get the people to air, Cohagen! Come on, Cohagen! Get the people to air! It's the bad guy that's trying to get Arnold out. Get out the mouth. Get out the mouth. So the red pill's a bad thing, but then in the Matrix, suddenly now the red pill is the drug experience that awakens you, the hallucinogenic experience, the LSD experience. And LSD, yes, because in the new one, it's made clear because when Kinko goes to talk to the new 70s Morpheus, I don't know why there's like a 70s Morpheus, but 70s Morpheus man who's like a pimp, literally. He says, set and setting, Neo, set and setting. Well, that's the phraseology from Leary relating to how to have a good trip. That's old 60s pseudo counterculture LSD stuff. So, in other words, yes, it's talking about the LSD trip, and then Neo is given the red pill again to wake up again. And I'm just pointing out that the Psyop Cinema guys might have a point that what in Total Recall is a red pill, which is a bad thing, that Arnold rejects, now gets flipped into being the way to exit the Matrix because, oh, don't you know, when you trip balls, you're going to see, oh, reality's a simulation. Reality's fake, dude, except I'm in it. But I'm not fake. But I'm real because now I just woke up out of being fake, bro. All this nonsense, all this gibberish, all this Far Eastern philosophy that is repackaged for Western pop audiences is really transparent once you see it. But point is, it's so obvious that, yeah, it was talking about the LSD trip. Now, we know that the releasing of LSD to the masses was actually part of the Harvard Project. It was part of Tim Leary working for the CIA, doing that on purpose. He brags about it, says, if you like the 60s counterculture, you can thank the CIA, because that's who gave it to you. If you didn't hear the full MK Ultra lecture, that's what we just covered. And we went back in and sourced and found a bunch of new information and new connections that we hadn't seen before. So if you want to get access to that, you can subscribe to Jay's Analysis in the subscription link there or over on The Rock. But the point is that what people debated for a long time about the Matrix, what exactly is going on with the red pill thing. I saw people on Twitter, normie left peeps saying, oh, the right-wingers hijacked red pill. They hijacked it. That's kind of true because actually the red pill was the counterculture, CIA counterculture waking up to the Matrix, man, right? Boomer Garcia level stuff. Yeah, the Matrix, man. Do a little bit of LSD, wake up out of the Matrix, man. If you don't know, that's Jamie and I's archetype of the idiot hippie boomer guy who still believes in the revolution. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so patently obvious that this is engineered. It's religious engineering, as the Psyop Cinema guys say. And so I don't know where exactly it's going to go. I mean, I know it's going to go to the metaverse, but what I'm saying is that what these movies are doing, and they're fine for illustration purposes. Yes, you can use the Matrix to talk about Plato's allegory of the cave. Yes, you can use it in philosophy classes to question the nature of reality, to talk about Plato, Neoplaton. I understand. That's not the point. My point here is just to talk about the long-term culture programming, religious engineering, culture creation, is that it's so obvious that this is connected to giving people new definitions of what is real, what is reality. And now that everybody's traditional notions of metaphysics have been destroyed and broken down, dude, now you're getting new metaphysics. This is what people don't understand, is that, and it's always these scientism soy people that are super into comic books because it's a new metaphysic. And as we've seen in the last 2 weeks in Discord, in multiple debates, the scientism crowd doesn't know when they're doing metaphysics. And it's because they're philosophically ignorant. Neil deGrasse Tyson tells you not to do philosophy. Yeah, because you'll realize that he's full of it. He is full of the hot air of the giant gaseous ball that he loves so much. He's full of that hot air, as are all of these modern scientism proponents, because he doesn't want you to learn metaphysics. Because when you learn metaphysics, you would learn that this is all a bunch of nonsense. Quantum foam, infinite multiverses where you have cornbread legs like me in the multiverse that I was in last night, saving you all, saving all you ungrateful non-celebrities. So it's becoming clear that we know that they had planned the gamification of society. We know in a lot of the documents they had talked about the prevalence and rise of video game and gamification and automation. So, is it possible, and I think, I'm starting to think, yes, that the Matrix was really about preparing you to enter the Matrix. That's really what this is about. Now, why would we think that this is a plausible scenario? Well, we know that the Matrix itself actually is an old Pentagon plan. We know about that. Alex has talked about that a lot. We've talked about that a lot. And that's because they discussed the possibility of pods, get in your Coon pod, get in your Sim pod. That's all real. It's going to come. And then the possibilities of the brain interfaces, which I just covered in when we talked about the Singularity and the Kurzweil books. Eventually, the idea is that the metaverse, the virtual reality worlds, are going to be just nanotech, right? So we talked about that explicitly. I'm not going to redo all that. But the Matrix was clearly preparing for this. That's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, you could say, well, wasn't every virtual reality movie or show preparing for it? Maybe, but this one was different because it was such a huge thing. I mean, this was such a mega blockbuster that it's just like, it became its own meme. It became a meme of a meme. Even still, right? Red pill, that's still a Matrix meme. Which is, again, it's ironic because it's the opposite of the red pill meaning in Total Recall. But let's not forget, by the way, that PKD also believed in simulation theory. Actually, Philip K. Dick was one of the first public proponents of simulation theory. He was proposed it before any of the nerds at MIT or Oxford or whatever Cambridge wrote their papers positing it. Thus, we can begin to see the idea of gamification, which is coming about via crypto, NFT. And again, I'm not saying inherently these things are bad. Video games aren't bad. The internet's not inherently bad. None of these things are inherently bad. It's where they might take these things and what they might try to do with these things. And a lot of people, dude, they're going to like opt in to let me live in my Coon pod and I'll be your battery. I will be your battery. Let me come and let me be. I will be Bill Gates' battery. Mark Zuck, I will coom for free. Let me be your battery. I don't know where that came from. That just came out of nowhere. But
In the metaverse, you're going to find everything's going to be great. Oh, hey. Hi, guys.
yes, I had to throw a little bit of Zuck in there. But by the way, did you remember that the Animatrix was about crypto? Yes, I know. There's boomer conspiracies every day I deal with about crypto. That's not the point. Okay, I'm pro crypto. Not all crypto is created equal. Some of the projects are bad. Some of them are good. Look up Klaus in the World Economic Forum's projects. Okay, those are Klaus coins. Okay, I'm not pro Fed coin. I'm not pro Klaus coin. So, but not all projects are the same. Anyway, so the Matrix is many things, and ultimately it is a neo-Gnostic Luciferian awakening experience to get you to question reality itself so that you can have the system's new metaphysic as a new download, basically is where I'm going with this. So that you will go into the metaverse and into the Matrix, basically, willfully, because you will no longer believe that reality is what people have for millennia said it is. That's what I'm trying to say. So the new worldview is going to be that you can't be a reality bigot. Now, everybody's been looking up my stuff from 5 and 10 years ago, and they've been finding things that I said, which I don't even remember saying half of the stuff, right? They're like, dude, in 2015, you predicted stabbies. Yes, I just shared that. I said that we mandated stabbies. I said in 2015, go listen to the podcast. Everybody knows about the Pope of the Future, that ridiculous satire from 5 years ago as well. Now they have the very things that I talked about in that satire video. So I think what I'm saying now is going to be the future too. Like, they're going to, I'm going to prophesy for you. I'm going to prophesy. Put your hands on the screen as a prophesy. The purpose of all this is to give a new metaphysic. Now metaphysics has been destroyed for the last 500 years from the Enlightenment. Now they want to give a new metaphysic that allows them to have control over you via getting you to buy into going into the Coon Pod. And the only way to get you to do that is to convince everybody that there is no reality other than the realities of infinite potentia. That's what I'm trying to say. The multiverse allows reality to be anything. And so it's no longer going to be about left and right, conservative and this and that, whatever. It's going to be about people who think that women can give birth, that breastfeeding existed. I'm not joking, because that's in Brave New World in 1984. In Brave New World, they laugh when they talk about breastfeeding because babies are born in tubes, dude. So how do we get people to that? Well, a new metaphysic has to come about. And as we know, the masses do not get their information from books, textbooks, and even the news, really. Where do the masses get their worldview? Movies, comic books. Well, not really comic books anymore, but you know what I'm saying. The pop culture, dude. Music and movies, pop culture, toxic culture. That's where people get their download. And although I like things that are meta and break the fourth wall, that's the one I did like that part of the Matrix movie. That was pretty fun. And that's an old thing in literature too, right? You go back to Midsummer. What's the Shakespeare play? That has breaking the fourth wall. This is an ancient thing, but the surrealism element here of breaking the fourth wall and the artist's world being its own multiverse reality, which, by the way, that comes up a lot in David Lynch films. If you haven't noticed that, like in Lost Highway, there's a scene where Bill Pullman breaks the fourth wall and he looks at the audience as if he can see them, which is interesting. And, you know, a lot of artists, a lot of writers play with this. Stephen King plays with this, right? Where the different Stephen King stories are worlds that interrelate. This is the premise of the whole Dark Tower, right? So it's a common thing in lit. It's been done for a long time. But now what they're trying to do, I think, is interject through scientism, nothing to do with science at all. No, absolutely no scientific basis whatsoever for all this metaphysical gibberish that they are re-injecting. Multiverse, quantum foam, quantum consciousness stuff. It's all to get people to buy into these things. That's it. And so the Matrix trilogy and the new one, which is very revelatory in terms of what it's really about, by the way, is ultimately that get you to, and that's why Marvel is pushing all this now so much, right? Multiverse, which is philosophical nonsense. We can show that very easily. For example, in philosophy, the way that we identify people or things or objects is connected to what's called the law of identity. So this goes back to ancient philosophy, ancient metaphysics, Aristotle. And it's really the questions that led to defining an essence, right? For Aristotle, the essence of a thing is that which a thing must have in order to be that thing and no other thing. So the law of identity comes into that because we identify it on the basis of this or that trait peculiar to that object that gives it particularity, identity, instantiation, individuation, etc. Essential traits, essential properties, whatever. So this has been part of philosophy for millennia, and it's obvious why it's true, because kind of knowledge presupposes this, right? At all. To be able to predicate presupposes that we can identify an object or a person, and that they retain that identity over time. So the law of identity is connected to identity over time, right? These are philosophical concepts. Now, pretty clearly, it should be obvious that science and the doing of science assumes all that. Yeah, obviously it presupposes that. And so the quantum cum dimension that everybody wants to bring in is premised on denying that. Okay, if we deny that, the problem that arises is so fundamentally flawed that it makes knowledge impossible. The denial of the possibility of identity over time, the law of identity, which I would say transcendental categories that are necessary for the possibility of predication. Once we deny those things, what happens is we don't open ourselves up to possibilities. We open ourselves up to nonsense, to outright crazy contradictions, which make knowledge impossible. So, for example, you are the you that is not just the collection of your experiences, but the actual hypostasis or person that is you, that has had those experiences. So there's an underlying haver of the experiences, a knower, a haver of those experiences, which is the you, the self, the consciousness, the soul, etc. That is you. And to posit an infinite variety of universes, multiverses, where you have had every slight differentiation as an experience, no longer is you, you see. Once I take you out of the you that is you in this dimension, this reality, this world, and start positing, oh, by the way, you're also Whoopi Goldberg in another dimension. Oh, by the way, there's another dimension where you have Whoopi Goldberg's eyes and her dreads, but you're still a dude. Oh, and then there's another dimension where you're like half of your body is the upper torso of Whoopi Goldberg, and then the bottom torso is cornbread and you fall over, like I was saying was me, right? So this is called madness. Okay, this is not philosophy or science. This is called insanity. You could go to any local psychiatric ward and find people that have very similar types of views, or perhaps those very views. And so it's getting so crazy that, what was I reading? One of these MKUltra documents was talking about the inducing of mania in the population. Okay, that's in one of the Tavistock documents, and it's in one of the MKUltra things, that There's a strategy not just of inducing mania in individuals through dissociation, but inducing mania in the masses population. I'm like, oh yes, that makes perfect sense. Now I understand. And perhaps, this multiverse stuff and the idea that you can identify yourself as anything. How? Oh, because there's a multiverse where I am. That's literally the logic of it, right? Go watch that trailer for, now I don't know this new movie from A24 where the Chinese woman is the shopkeeper laundry mat person who taps into her. Now you got to see this trailer. You'll see what I mean, right? Because this is coming out too now. Do you remember what that was, Jamie? All of everything, something like that. Do you guys remember this? Have you seen the trailer in the chat? It's something like all of everything, or all of everyone. It's A24 production company. Here it is. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Okay. You got to see this trailer because it's like the perfect example of what I'm talking about, what I'm rambling about, what I'm ranting about. I've already forgotten what movies we're talking about because I'm all lost. Here is the trailer I'm putting in the chat right now. Go watch that trailer. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. So there is no dimension where you have cornbread legs. I hate to break it to you. I know that everyone is pining for that, lusting for the dimension where you have cornbread legs. You stand up, you collapse into a pile of meal, and then you somehow, I guess, are rebuilt the next day. Is there a dimension where it's like Groundhog Day and I have cornbread legs? It's just the same every day. It starts over and I get out of bed, my cornbread legs. So here's my thesis on where this is coming from. Ultimately, yeah, it's demonic. But how would people believe in things so absurd? The more I thought about it, it's like, well, wait a minute. So when we're dreaming, yes, it seems real. And the Matrix, the new Matrix, will actually bring that in, the dream aspect of it. Because the new Matrix is going to be about the dream world, the real world, the sim world, and the sim world within the sim world. So it's really weird and it's very confusing and disjointed, which is part of the reason why it's hard to figure out exactly what's going on. But I think people are the reason they believe this is because dreams appear real, and then of course kind of basic level philosophy people say, oh, well, how do we know that this world isn't just another one of the dream worlds? Then they leap to the conclusion that, oh, because of Brian Greene's book about multiverses, there has to be an infinite number of universes. And he makes the argument that it's something like, well, if the universe is infinite, which, by the way, we don't know. Nobody knows that the freaking universe is infinite. I don't think it is. But on what empirical scientific basis can you prove the universe is infinite, right? So he starts with that premise, which is actually to give the universe a divine attribute. Interesting. So they're collapsing the divine energies into the universe, pantheism, which is just ancient paganism. And then his argument is, if you go in one direction infinitely, then in an infinite series of potentia, you're eventually going to, he's trying to say logically, you would come to another universe eventually that would be like yours, because again, it goes on forever. So if there's no end to it, then isn't it possible in an infinite extension that you would hit the same thing? And not just the same thing, but that you would hit every variation of that thing. So in any direction, if you went infinitely, you would encounter every other infinite possibility, was his line of reasoning. If I remember correctly. I read his thing, 10 years ago. So I'm going from memory. I think that's the line of reasoning that he's using. And in philosophy, this is to confuse potentiality with actuality. Amazing. So they're making ancient philosophical mistakes that Aristotle refuted a long time ago. And Christianity, through the doctrine of creation ex nihilo, refuted a long time ago. And they believe it because of false, bad philosophy, like illogical, incoherent leaps in philosophy. And this is the penalty when you reject metaphysics. You become crazy. And you don't really get away from metaphysics. You just start bringing in metaphysics again in terms of like schizo crazy world, dude. I mean, think how close is this to Charles Manson philosophy? I'm God and the devil, son. I'm the sunrise of your mind. Right? Jesus and Satan are the same, which is this dialectical Gnostic philosophy, which is the same thing as all potentialities being real. It's just ridiculous. And not just logically possible worlds, as philosophers talk about, even illogical worlds also are real somehow. Which, again, makes absolutely no sense. But the multiverse nonsense, I'm not joking. Father Deacon actually has talked about this. It goes back to a physicist who didn't know anything about philosophy. I think he was David Lewis. He heard philosophers talking about potentiality and actuality, confused them, and thought that when philosophers were talking about possible worlds, that if the universe is infinite, then all of the possible worlds would eventually be actual, right? I mean, and this is so crazy and so stupid. Like, dude, you should have gone to your philosophy 101 class. Why did you skip that day? Because maybe you would have avoided this ridiculous nonsense worldviews that now the world is adopting, right? Madness. The world is going crazy, and they're buying into manufactured, stupid worldviews by technocrats. That's who's really doing this. The technocrats are wanting to give you, they're giving you a worldview where they're the god, right? Did you see Ready Player One? Remember that in that story, the tech nerd dude who designed the stupid game is like the god figure. He's the absent, bumbling demiurge god. In the new Matrix, it's Doogie Howser. Demi Howser. Doogie Howser. Demi Moore, by the way, was in one of those 90s propaganda things I was watching where the trailer for G.I. Jane comes on. Let's go watch that trailer. It'll be cracking up, dude. It's like the propaganda is so just like stale, dude. It's so obvious. Yeah, so the philosophy that I'm getting at here is just crazy. It's madness. And people don't seem to understand that when you adopt incoherent things, it destroys the whole system and the possibility of knowledge. Don't you get it? That's the point. That's the argument here. That's part of tag. You can't just affirm anything. It's not going to work. So, by the way, thank you for these super chats. We got a nice fat crowd, 500 on a Thursday night. That's a nice little crowd. Maybe I should disappear more because then you all come pining after me like a man with cornbread legs. Like I'm just sitting over here with buttery cornbread legs, and you all want to take a chomp out of me, and I'm over here being like, y'all stupid for eating cornbread to begin with because that's slave slop. You need to eat meat. Grains and cornbread, cornmeal, dude, are you joking? That's slave slop. That's slave food. Don't eat cornmeal. Don't eat bread and grains. So I'm not going to bore you with the same old Matrix analyses. We're going to skip past that. But if you recall, a couple of things that were interesting, if you've not seen the Animatrix, is that in that additional pre-post Matrix vignette of a bunch of cartoons and art, the first one is cryptocurrency is AI taking over the world. So when I hear these goobers on Twitter who come at me with the crypto conspiracies and they're like, Bitcoin is an AI from the future that is sent back to steal everyone's money and enslave humanity. I'm like, dude, that's from the Animatrix. Okay, I've seen the Animatrix. And in the Animatrix, the bots flash trade the crypto so fast that they buy up the whole world. And the whole thing is premised on there being sentient robots, which, by the way, is a big part of the new Matrix. So the robots are now sentient, which is dumb. But how to summarize this? Let's summarize it basically that Neo is somehow in this new normie world where he's like a video game designer, Kinko. And people start to recognize him from the real world. And he doesn't believe it. And he's like taking big pharma pills, blue pills. And he has a psychiatrist who is Doogie Howser, who basically is trying to keep him in the system in the Matrix. And we know that this new Neo has tried to commit suicide because he's unhappy, blah, blah, blah. And in this story, the Matrix is the video game that he's designed. And in this universe, the video game looks just like the Matrix movies. And they're making movies from Warner Brothers on the basis of the video games that he's designed. And they have the Warner Brother meetings brainstorming how to create the new Matrix movie, which is the new Matrix movie. Okay, so it's like, whoa, dude, right? And for whatever, the first half of this, I'm watching it. I'm like, this is kind of interesting. This is a little bit better than I expected. And then to make it even weirder, the company is called Deus Ex Machina. Deus Ex, right? Deus Machina. Well, that's God from the Machine, but that's also the famous video game, which is about the Matrix and transhumanism and the Illuminati. So there's all this weird stuff going on, and then they break the fourth wall with the Warner Brothers brainstorming about how to do the new Matrix movie. And then we find out that the new game that Keanu is designing is called Binary, which of course that pops up everywhere in the Matrix, in the original Matrix. And in Binary, he has designed programs that, this doesn't make any sense, but he has these memories and dreams that are from his real previous Matrix experiences in the real Matrix movies. Okay, I know everybody's getting lost, but I don't know how to explain this. Like it's like a big giant mind F, right? Like I can't even explain it, but that's why it's very confusing, I think, for people that watched it. I know what the story means, but I'm watching this and I'm like, who could follow this? Like, can normies follow this, or do they even know what's going on? Or this is so disjointed and convoluted. So the philosophical theme of the movie is binary and choice, and of course, yes, that was a big part of the original Matrix trilogy, was the notion of predestination, free will, choice, determinism. Our choice is real, and then it brings in all this goofy Far Eastern philosophy, which would negate the reality of choices. Anyway, that keeps coming up, and it's never really resolved, except the movie. You're like watching one movie for the first half, and you're thinking, oh, okay, interesting, this is meta, it's fourth wall, and then there's a really good scene. There was a really good scene where when Neo is waking up again, he walks into a room that they've set up that is playing the scene of the room in the Matrix, and it's set up like the scene in the Matrix when he is awakened by Morpheus. So there's a scene of Morpheus waking up Neo, and then Neo is there next to Morpheus being. It's getting really weird, and I'm like, I like this. This is good weird. Then, for whatever reason, the second half of the movie turns into a different movie, which is about social justice. And these people who, it's just, I can't even explain it. It's just, we're just going to say it's terrible. But basically, Neo is still a savior, and there's people who basically convert to him and believe in him or don't, which was in the original trilogy. But then they come up with this crazy plot to team up ultimately with Agent Smith, which kind of hints that maybe Agent Smith was the real hero in the first three. If you don't know, that's a theory, right? Was Agent Smith actually the real good guy? Well, this kind of hints at that because, spoiler alert, Agent Smith is basically teamed up with Neo and Morpheus. So the relativizing of good and evil, of course, which we talked about many times with these Gnostic multiverse movies. Many references to Follow the White Rabbit, which everybody knows that's obviously in the first one, but now they actually have Alice in Wonderland, the book, sitting there. They talk about following the White Rabbit when Morpheus explains that this is set and setting. Take this pill. It's clearly an LSD trip. And they even make jokes about people decoding the Matrix. I thought that was weird. Like when they're sitting around in the room figuring out how to make the new Matrix plot. They even talk about how the nerds sit around try to deconstruct and explain the philosophical meaning of the Matrix. Anyway, literally everything about this movie is, for whatever reason, about choice and binary. So the explanation then is, even things like Io, so the new city, Zion doesn't exist anymore, now it's called Io. Well, that's binary, I-O. That's also Crowleyan, Pan, Yo-Pan, Lo-Pan, Io-Pan. It is binary. It's explained in the movie that everything is binary choices, because this thing or that thing, good or evil, male or female. The creator God and his opposite, the architect Smith. This literally, it comes up probably 20 times in the movie, right? So I don't know if like they thought everybody was just too stupid, maybe, but like you don't have to tell me 20 times in the movie that this is about binary. Like I get it, right? It's about freedom and choice, right? This thing or that thing, that's binary. So when there's the big reveal, when Neo thinks he's going to wake up Carrie-Anne Moss, we find out that, twist, Doogie Howser is the architect. Shocker, right? You thought it was Agent Smith, who's the dude from Mindhunter, excuse me. The FBI dude from Mindhunter. Oh, it wasn't him. It's actually Doogie Howser. So Doogie Howser was so high IQ that he built Matrix 2. So there's old Matrix, which is gone. Doogie Howser is the new sentient architect who builds Matrix 2.0. Is that Web 3? I don't know what it's supposed to be, and in this world, this new Matrix, he wants to get rid of choice. I mean, didn't Smith say that though? I don't know. Anyway, but Smith is now awake, right? So he's like the good version of the dark side. Neo is the good version of the light side, and they team up. So the overcoming of the binaries is through Smith and Neo being the yin and the yang to defeat Doogie Howser. So you thought he was just a smart doctor as a kid. No, he built the whole new Matrix, dude. And anyway, so you get the idea. So basically, it was all about, should we give people choice? The other couple weird elements too. Basically, Neo and so here's the final reveal. So after all these, there's like, it's one of those movies where there's 10 reveals, there's 10 endings. You're like, oh, finally it's over. Oh no, we have another another cake layer of bad ending, right? It's like we just had the mayonnaise cake. Now you got to have a bite of the onion cake. Now you got to have a bite of the freaking cornbread cake, right? It's just like they stack on worse and worse layer endings. By the way, there was also Monarch Butterfly behind the Doogie Howser psychiatrist. So references to, I think, probably Monarch mind control programming. He's basically the handler. So in the story, Keanu is dosing himself with Big Pharma because he's suicidal. And Doogie Howser's his handler, psychiatrist, who's keeping him imprisoned, basically. So he's the demiurge. And guess what his power is? Time. He slows and speeds up time, which Neo can't do in this Matrix for whatever reason. By the way, he can't fly, but Carrie-Anne Moss can fly. Now, this is where it's going to get really stupid. Because the whole point of this movie is that in the new Matrix, in the new world that they're going to create, the resurrected Neo and Trinity now have God powers in the Matrix because they've been basically cloned and rebuilt in the real world. And in the new Matrix, they're not going to do... They're like, thank you, Doogie Howser God, for giving us a resurrection. Now we're done with you, and we have dethroned you. So the Crowleyan idea of dethroning God is literally what happens at the end of the movie. And guess how it's done? Through the beloved goddess. So Trinity, the woman, is the savior of Neo. Because Neo can't fly. They jump off the building. She can fly. She grabs him. It's so freaking cheesy, dude. It's so lame. It's like, come on. This is so dumb. Basically girl power. That's the point here. So, because chicks can fly. So what's the meaning of all of this? Chicks can fly, enter the metaverse because girl power, and basically Neo is reduced to being a cat lady. I'm not joking. Like, Trinity runs shit now, and Neo's like cowering in the background, literally petting a cat and being like, okay, whatever you say. Okay, whatever you say. Like, and by the way, as Jamie said, he was phoning it in, dude. He had to have been like, this is painful. You're hurting me, right? Just give me a cat. I need to pet a cat. It looks like every line he's saying, it's like hurting him. This movie was so painful that every line Neo had was pain. And he didn't even have that many lines. He's like John Wick, like quiet the whole movie, right? He's just quiet over there. This is bad. No. Yes. I'll take the red pill. And then there's one point where he's like, no, 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 no. Remember that? Well, I don't even remember. What was he saying no to? Oh, Morpheus tries to give him a red pill. And he goes, no, 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 no. This movie is just really weird. It's the real binary here is how do they combine this level of weird with this level of cheese? There's a weird cheese yin yang in this. That's it. You got Gouda over here. You got Frank Zappa over here. It's like I don't know how they did it, but it's the weirdest mix of two weird things. And the first half of it is a different movie from the second half. So delete this whole second half and then like start from the middle and remake that movie, please. Do something else. But yeah, so that's the whole thing. It's transhumanism and the goddess. So chicks can fly. Screw you dudes. Go pet your cats. Cat boys. No longer are we cat ladies. There's no more cat ladies. Because chicks can fly and shit. They're the goddess. And basically men are... What was another movie we were watching where it's like the chicks are the saviors now? Take that, toxic masculinity men. Chicks rule. Do you remember what that was? No, Children of Men. That's right. Remember? Yeah. So in Children of Men, it's the salvation narrative is reversed to where the miracle birth baby is a girl. Whoa. Literal S face, right? Anyway. So if you were looking for deep philosophy, sorry, you don't get it. We'll overcome all the dialectical binary by merging all the principles. But then, by the way, the chick comes out on top. Now, how are all the principles merged and equalized if, oh, by the way, girls rule, dude? So the girls can fly, which kind of sounds like they're better. Because the dudes can't fly. I mean, Kinko can barely give his lines. And they keep making these jokes that he's too old. Well, Carrie Ann Moss is as old as him. So, anyway, it's dumb and weird all at once. So, there you go. Then let's get to finally a little bit about Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. As movies go, this one was a little bit of a better movie. I'm really tired of Marvel movies, as you guys know. It's kind of a chore to watch Marvel movies. This is not the most fun for me. Sometimes they're worth analyzing, and really this one's only worth analyzing because of the fact that we're just being force-fed now all this multiverse nonsense. And people are taking it seriously. And all of these, YouTube talks and lectures, and that has helped too. Like all the people, like millions and millions and millions of views on YouTube of multiverse stuff. And now Metaverse has come out, at least in its early initial pseudo phases, beta phases or whatever. And people are immediately going to think, oh, dude, when I go into the Metaverse, I'm going to get to fly. I was watching videos of boomers. I'm not joking, not being mean. Literal boomers who were experimenting in the Metaverse. And anyway, you can go watch the video where it says old people, but it's actually just boomers. Old people try out in the Metaverse. Go watch that. But yeah, so now even old people are, and it's like, I can fly. I've always wanted to fly, and now I can do it. So even the boomers are going to go in the Metaverse to fly. Well, by the way, girls are taking over because Trinity can fly and Neo can't. So chicks fly, dude. You are grounded. Literally, get it? Grounded because you can't fly. I'm grounded. I'm grounded. I'm grounded. Literally every line is him. He's in pain and he goes, you're saying I'm grounded. Every line is pain. Maybe every line is pain given his poems. Like literally in his poetry he says, I wash myself with pain shampoo and exfoliate myself with grief exfoliate. I'm not joking. That's actually that's what's in his poems. Go read Keanu Reeves' poems. So maybe he knows deep down that new Matrix was a stink bomb, and so maybe that's why that is the source of all the pain. Anyway, so Spider-Man Metaverse. Now, Doctor Strange, as we know, is grounded in totally 100% Crowleyan level ritual magic. And if you've not read my analysis, here is that. Go read that. And we've seen many times the comic book world, whether it's Alan Moore, Crowleyan, or the Marvel era, Marvelverse, or Marvage, if you saw the first part of the stream, Marvel garbage, the Marvage universe, then you know that there's Crowleyan elements all through that. And the idea of multiverse itself is also a ritual magic idea. It's the idea that all the dream realms, all the fictional realms also exist. Because, bro, how could you, if you dreamed it, it's real, right? We covered that silly philosophy early on, the first half. Go back and watch that if you didn't see it. But so in this one, let's go back to the Doctor Strange. So as we know in this, Benadryl Cumberbatch is essentially a magician who, well, he goes and learns in India, the secrets, right? And he gets initiated and he knows all the mysteries. And so he's basically this demigod figure who is a super duper ritual magician. And he starts out in the movie as a, quote, materialist, right? He's like, oh, I don't believe in anything spiritual. I believe in science and quantitative approaches to knowledge, he says, and materialism. Then, as you know, if you've probably seen it, he has the car accident. It ravages his hands. He basically almost dies, comes to the end of his rope, and his medical career is over. He can't operate on people anymore, right? So now he starts to he decides, oh, I'm going to go on my eat, pray, love journey, right? So he goes to India, eats and prays and loves, and then gets initiated into something. I don't know what that, some made up Marvage religion in India. And basically also kind of has an acid trip, right? So remember the scene when he goes into the DMT dimension, bro? When he starts smoking that Joe Rogan, he's gone. He blasts off, and it's all trippy. And then he comes back, and he's initiated. Again, the drug theme, the LSD theme, both movies kind of hint at that. So Strange basically wanders his way into a secret society. And this is led, of course, by a woman, Tilda Swinton, who leads him to the good side of the ancient order. So there's the ancient one, the monad, who has a good side and a bad side. And you can learn or master both sides. Kind of a Star Wars type of thing, right? The Force. So then he, I'm trying to remember. So he basically, one of his former students, Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen, ends up at the service of some uber demon, Dormammu. You get a mix of Hindu cosmology, Gnosticism, and techno-mysticism. So again, back with Multiverse. Doctor Strange is inducted into the society. He's given this, as we said, this astral experience, right? So he can like boop people into the astral realm outside their body, right? Blah, blah, blah. Going through my analysis here. As Strange ascends into the other worlds and has visions of the light fabric of the cosmos, it's explained that it is explicitly his third eye opening. So again, this is all the esoteric Far Eastern stuff. The experience, as we said, is much like an LSD trip, and Strange himself says that it was like an acid trip. Here he learns all the hidden arts, begins to grasp the analytical truths in terms of materialism are not in opposition to spiritual truths, which in fact transcend those things. So the multiverse is the great mystery that he's beginning to learn, you see. And that will come up at the end of Spider-Man when they have the trailer for the new Doctor Strange, which is Doctor Strange, the Multiverse. So he lines up his chakras in this scene, and he masters the Key of Solomon. Literally, it's referenced in the film as the Key of Solomon. So we know it's about ritual magic, right? And I won't go through all the plot of the movie. You can go rewatch that movie. But basically, it ends up being perennialism and illuminism. And I referenced the Aldous Huxley book. And if you didn't read my analysis of Spider-Man, the one with Andrew Garfield, I would suggest go and reading that, because that's also about RNA manipulation. Interesting. When did that come out? So 2012, Spider-Man, with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. That ends up being about genetic manipulation. Oscorp, right? Dr. Connor is a student of reptiles and snakes, and he's trying to figure out how to regrow limbs. And this is what leads to him becoming basically the reptile who tries to take over the world and genetically mutate everyone. Yes, he's going to literally give everybody Surge Cola, genetically mutate them. You can go read this in my analysis. I think this analysis came out really good a couple months ago. There it is on Rock. You can go read it on the Rock, baby. Sign up as well over on the Rock if you're looking for excellent free speech-based content. It's all over on my Rockfin and no one else's. So with the ritual magic background, now we can begin to see that this is really just another Doctor Strange movie, right? Because the Spider-Man here is accidentally opening up the metaverse. And this happens because he asked Doctor Strange to change reality so that, and then he's like, no, I can't do that. And then he's like, okay, well then make everybody forget me. And then he, in the midst of this spell, like keeps breaking the magic circle through saying, do this, no, do this, do this. And this causes the universe to go haywire. So what we have is a universe of pure chaos. And then the more I got to thinking about this, wait a minute, techno-paganism also has its origins in chaos magic. Peter Carroll, who is actually the father of modern occultism, as some people think, right? Not Crowley. Crowley is like the grandfather of modern satanic occultism. Peter Carroll is the father of it because he's the father of cyber magic and chaos magic. In other words, the thesis is that the internet is basically this magical device, and we can affect reality through our, magic mirrors and whatnot. And chaos magic is the ultimate postmodern thing because it means that all potentialities are not just actual, but you can, if you become the great wizard, you can bring into reality all the potentialities. So the strongest wizard is the one who imposes his will to instantiate whatever he wants. Cornbread leg people, if he wants. Everybody in the universe being Whoopi Goldberg, if he wants. That is essential chaos magic, according to Peter Carroll. And the underwriting philosophy, I'm saying, of the new Spider-Man and Doctor Strange is chaos magic, actually. Because the universe is not governed by divine providence. It's not governed by telos. In fact, there is no providence, there is no telos. There is only chaos. And the struggling will to power individual magicians, ritual magic people, who are and become the demigods. I mean, essentially, Doctor Strange has become this. He has the ability basically now to manipulate time and space, open up dimensional portals, change the past. I mean, you're right. We know this from the Avengers movies. And of course, he's the one who stops. Well, he chooses the one. How does it go in the Avengers? He finds the one version of the multiverse where they could beat Thanos. Whatever. I mean, if there's an infinite number of multiverses, there's an infinite number of universes where Thanos is beat. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? But why didn't they just bring, when they have the ability to bring the other Spider-Man, spoiler alert, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire come into this universe, the other Spider-Man. Why don't they just bring an infinite number of Spider-Mans? Like if there's an infinite number of Spider-Mans, you could bring the Spider-Mans that have all of the bad guys' powers. Because it's infinite in every possibility. It's just, anyway. Multiverse stuff is stupid, right? It's even dumber than the time travel movies. Which I only have the patience for 2 of those. Okay, Terminator, okay. Back to the Future, okay. No more. No more time travel movies. Everything, they're all dumb. Everything else is stupid. Don't give me any more. This is the next level beyond that. Dumb. Multiverse stuff. So, again, remember that Doctor Strange, we realized, is premised on ritual magic. And not just the idea of ritual magic and the esoteric, blah, 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 but chaos magic. Pure chaos, to quote Peter O'Toole. So, as you know, if you've seen it, in this one, Peter Parker is framed by people that Mysterio, basically, who was the villain in the first one of the new guy, the new Spider-Man. And he basically has it come out that Peter Parker is responsible for people dying through drone attacks. And then J.K. Simmons plays this basically Alex Jones character. I mean, Alex was saying this the other day that, folks, I'm the villain. I'm one of the villains in the news. And I was like, really? And then I went and I'm like, okay, actually, yeah. It's Mark Dice plus Alex Jones in a combo character, right? Because he's sitting there, he's doing Mark Dice's alliteration, right? And it's Alex's voice in like an Alex studio. It's pretty crazy. It's the J.K. Simmons character from the Daily Bugle. He's not called Alex Jones, but like literally acting. So anyway, he's like he's a minor villain who's like, Spider-Man's bad, and he's got these conspiracy theories. And then they have references multiple times at the beginning to the people that don't like Spider-Man are the conspiracy theorists. And of course they're wrong. Right? So that was pretty wild, and I think that's definitely propaganda. That's intentional, but I'm not going to torture you with all of the. I mean, it's not a bad. It's an entertaining movie just as a movie, but philosophically and in terms of meaning, I mean, come on, dude, really. I just think this multiverse stuff is stupid. I mean, it's kind of fun to see like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. That was all right. That was kind of fun. But I just hate multiverse stuff. The other thing that was weird was the Spider-Man's idea is basically through science juice and a Jordan Peterson machine, he can heal people. So it's all about like integrating the dark side. so it's like he's got this serum for each of the villains from the other old Spider-Man movies, and he's gonna put them in the Jordan Peterson machine that gives them the serum or what. That part was confusing to me, but he wants to heal the bad guys. Doctor Strange is like, oh, you can't heal them; just they have to die. So the plot is that, like, and Spider-Man has to learn that death can have meaning. When good people die, they die for a reason, and then, but there is no reason, right? Because for a good person to die in the universe means that the universe has an overall purpose. But the entire premise of the multiverse is that there is no overriding purpose in the universe. Multiverse chaos theory is the opposite of divine providence and telos. So you can't have both. And the whole thing about this is that Aunt May, spoiler alert, dies for a good reason, for a good cause. Okay, but if the multiverse is true, it's just chaos. There's no good causes. Because unless I'm God, like my will being exerted on reality is not enough to be the ultimate purpose of everything. So it's silly. And the other premise is like that science juice can save people, right? It's not the Eucharist. It's science juice. It's science gas. Literally, so he gives this serum to each of the villains to heal them. But by the way, so what? If there's an infinite variation of villains, healing one villain is basically a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. There's an infinite. You need to go save all the villains in all the universes, wouldn't you? Right? I mean, it's silly, right? I mean, the math on that it doesn't really add up. But so science juice, science machine is the real. So basically, technology, techne, is the magician's way to exert his will on the universe, which is what the technocrats believe. And good and evil are really relativized flip sides of one another. And that's always the problem in these Gnostic duality-based systems, is that good and evil are good is being for us, and then evil is privative, or a negation, or a move of the will away from the good. In the Gnostic duality-based systems, which all of this is, good and evil are flip sides of the same coin, and they necessitate one another. And so you can't have the villain without the good guy, and the good guy can't have and be the good guy without the villain. And the villains always even say this: I'm your dark psyche. I'm the, demon in your father's soul, like Jordan Peterson says. I'm the bad you. it's all, and that I'm necessary. You couldn't be you without me. That's what not Jared Leto. It's what Heath Ledger tells Christian Bale, right? I'm you, except the bad you. And guess what we see in the trailer for the new Doctor Strange? Evil Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange has to fight evil Doctor Strange from the other universe. Neo has to team up with Agent Smith to beat Doogie Howser. Here in Spider-Man, the Magick number 3. I'm not joking. They call it the Magick number 3. And they play the De La Soul song at the end in the credits. 3 is the magic number. Because it took 3 magic Spider-Men to defeat bad guys. So again, the premise is ritual magic, chaos magic, multiverse, which goes with those things, all work together and all what life and what these things are, what these adventures and these battles are about, is good and evil as part of an overall process, being the flip sides of one another, basically being the same as one another. That's literally like every comic book. All of comic books, for the most part, are really kind of just based on that premise. And yeah, so get ready for more and more of this. But hopefully now you kind of have the basic, philosophical critique that we've done many, many times. But remember, I did sim theory critique 3 years ago. We did a whole long critique of that. I was saying it's just another version of Gnosticism, paganism, etc. Now it's being like super forced down everybody's throat. It's gonna keep coming. I mean, wait until Disney buys everything, and everything will be a crossover. Like, you'll have Ren and Stimpy showing up with Luke Skywalker showing up with Spider-Man. Okay, that's where things are going. And it's going to be premised on multiverse. And when you go into the Matrix to go fight Keanu with cornbread legs, they're going to tell you that if you say the Matrix is not real, you're a reality bigot, and who knows what they're going to do. You get your soy chunks cut in half that week. You get half of your soy chunks. So how do we fight this? Well, the first way that we fight this is to give me all of your Bitcoin, because you can trust that I'm going to do good things with it. I'm going to make those Bitcoin grow, and that way we don't let the Matrix bots buy all the Bitcoin, right? Because in the Animatrix, they take over by buying up all the Bitcoin. So how do we prevent that? Give them to me, dude. I can guarantee you I will not give one robot a Bitcoin. Not one Satoshi. So that's one way to fight this system. Another way to fight this system is to support our sponsors by helping yourself through chalk.com. Right? You don't want to be reading your lines in pain. I'm in pain. Why are you here? Why am I doing this? I need shampoo. I'm crying. Right? Every line of Neo, pain. You want to avoid that pain? You get this Sheila Jit right now. You get this Tomcat right now. You will not be in Kinko Reeve pain. I can guarantee that, because they do 100% Amazon sourced products. I don't mean Amazon with Jeffrey Bezos. I'm talking about the Amazon rainforest sourced products that are 100% organic. That's the 100% Sheila Jit. You want to be thinking clear? Sheila Jit. You want to be up in that mojo? By the way, I don't know why, but throughout the whole movie, they joke that Keanu has lost his mojo. And how long have I been joking about getting your mojo back through this? Well, Keanu, it's right here. Hey, you need the Tomcat. You need 100 now. If you're looking for that extra supplement to go along with your Flintstone vitamins, you want that daily. The daily, that's because our food and our minerals are depleted, the soil is depleted, you want that daily. If you're looking for energy, Action 2.0, right? This is like Matrix 2.0. This is like, you want to fight Doogie Howser, you're going to need that Action 2.0. How do you get into that? Well, you go to the link in the show description, chalk.com, and you use the promo code 60% off. It's J60. JAY60. 60% off. Yes, you heard me right. You are not hearing a glitch in the Matrix. Literally 60% off right there. That she legit is legit. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? So get ready for incoming endless meta multi propaganda. Meta multi, that's what we're going to call it. And that's how all of this ties together. Metaverse, simulation theory, multiverse. Meta multi, Marvage. Marvel garbage, Marvage. If you want to support the show, you can also send some super chats. We got some classics Fly Daddy. What's up, Fly Daddy? He's a classic man. He says, I recently saw the Eternals. Now, yes, actually, Jamie and I were discussing suffering through a couple more Marvel movies because people keep talking about the Eternals. I guess I can watch some Marvage for you guys. Fly Daddy says, when I watched Eternals, there was so much propaganda and it's fed to children. I headed to watch and analyze No Way Home. What is No Way Home? Is that another movie? I don't know what that is. I'll have to look that up. And to learn about what my siblings are learning from as I used to. No Way Home. Oh, you mean the Spider-Man? No Way Home. Duh. I thought that, yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home. I thought you meant another movie called No Way Home. Gotcha. So, right, kids are being taught and prepped really for, so yeah, a lot of the audience of this is kids, teenagers, young teens. And they're just being told, bro, when you go in the Matrix, it's going to be the multiverse and you can be whatever you want. It's going to be so much fun and just live in there, dude. Right? That's what this is about. And they need a philosophy by which they will buy into it, which is the Matrix philosophy, which is, who are you to be a reality bigot and say that there's one reality? Right. Mez Michael, $25. Shout out to Mez Michael. Thank you very much. He says, Jay is back from banishment. Well, I sufficiently prostrated myself and wept at the feet of Zuck. And he said,
Hey, you're forgiven.
And so here I am. Adom sends $50. Wow, thank you, Adom. Not Adam, Adom. Which in reverse is Moda. Wasn't that what they called the program? They called the programs that Neo writes that are sentient, which is stupid. Modals? Modals? That was weird. Sonny Crockett. Now that's a nice name. That's a nice name. I get my aesthetic from a man called Sonny Crockett. And I'm just looking for a heartbeat. And if you don't know, that is Don Johnson's one-hit wonder from the 80s. Looking for a heartbeat. Thank you, Sonny Crockett. He says, are we in the end times? We are probably in the end times of this existing order. But whether we're in the end times, I do not know. Byzantios, $20. Thank you. Going back to the introduction of technocracy programming and the tech... Dude, I'm telling you, the rave, techno-pagan stuff is all just preparing us for this. And as Jacques Attali says in Brief History of the Future, they wouldn't, he doesn't say this, they wouldn't be here without, the transhumanists are the tip of the spear, he says in Brief History of the Future. But they wouldn't be here, the transhumanists who are these techno-pagan people from 20 years ago, without the techno-pagan rave, cyberpunk people from 20 years ago. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying that everybody that was into that was dumb or wrong or evil or, yes, I know Bitcoin comes out of cyberpunk. I know all this. You don't have to tell me this. And I don't care about your Bitcoin conspiracies. I don't care. And I don't read the articles that you send because I already read them all. But, yes, the techno-pagan philosophy is the philosophy of the Burning Man Silicon Valley people who are taking over. That's what I'm trying to say. And now I'm starting to think, as I was listening to Peter Carroll's lectures, or people reading his essays and stuff. Not that I'm that interested in this person, but he came up in when we did the analysis of the famous Satanist from Australia who died and left this essay. Well, he's the one that mentioned this Peter Carroll person who I'd never heard of, and said, "Oh, he's the father of modern Satanism." Crowley's the grandfather. This dude's the father. Well, and then you read about, so he's the guy who gets the chaos magic going. Of course, chaos magic. A lot of people in Hollywood, a lot of bands love chaos magic, so it is an influential philosophy. But the more I'm thinking about what I did a video on this a while back. I forgot. I mentioned this in one of the videos. The chaos magic philosophy is the multiverse philosophy, and it's the same as the postmodern philosophy. That's what I realized. So I'm listening to Peter Carroll, and I'm like, this is just postmodernism. That's all it is. And then I remember that Terence McKenna has a chapter where he talks about postmodernism getting its ideas from magical theorists, because it's magical thinking. The idea that my mind can make reality is the same thing as my mind, that reality is a social construct. It's the same. And it's the same as what's going on in these movies and in the Matrix and the Metaverse. There's more to this. Byzantios, he says, would you analyze the Kylie Minogue video Love at First Sight? We need to do more music video analyses. And as I was watching these old MTV things, I was like, dude, we should just I wish that I could play those and comment on them, because that would be interesting. Of course you can't, they'll copyright you, but I don't know if I've ever heard any Kylie Minogue song. So I'll have to go. Jamie, could you write this down? Love at First Sight. And we will analyze that for you at some point. Maybe we'll just do a live stream where we talk about like the top 10 esoteric music videos. Dude, that would be a pretty killer live stream. Now, I won't be able to play the videos, but we can link them to you ahead of time. You can watch them, and then you can come and then hear the analysis. That could work. Or I can link them as we're talking about them in the chat or whatever. That might work. But that is a good idea. Mez Michael for $2 says, if you go into the Matrix, they can teleport you to them to do things, and you won't have a say against the admins. Yeah, I think that will definitely be the case, right? The more the web develops into metaverse stuff, I feel sure the less anybody will have control. Maybe there will be other options, and it won't just be Zuckerberg's metaverse, the Facebook metaverse, but he's trying to own that, right? He wants to be that right now. So hopefully, if there is, hopefully they don't just destroy the internet and make everything that'll be terrible, but I don't know. Big Balla sends $15. He says, can a crucifix be cursed? I don't think so, but I've never thought about that. He says, well, what about a necklace? Merry Christmas. Can a crucifix be cursed? Merry Christmas. That's one of the best super chats I think I've ever had. I don't know, but my inclination is no, and Merry Christmas to you. So I'm sorry that that's not a sufficient question, but I don't know. I've never thought about that. That's such a weird super chat that it would fit in the Matrix Resurrection movie. I'm surprised that's not in there. I don't know. Maybe it is, and I missed it. Maybe I'm in the Matrix. Maybe the real world is Matrix Resurrection, because the real world is getting weird. But yeah, anyway. Thank you guys. We had a great crowd tonight. Over 500, almost 600 at one point. If you would, be sure to like and share. You can subscribe to Jay's Analysis. If you want to get my Matrix analysis and all that, you can get signed copies of Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2 in the shop. The shop is linked in the show description. Be sure and stack up on them chalk stacks. You can get them in stacks now, by the way, which is pretty badass. And everybody have a good time and a good night.